Hello and welcome to The Price of Music, brought to you by Music Ally. It's the show that enjoys nothing more than poring over the finances of the music industry while bringing you stories and comments about the past week in the pop business. I'm Steve Lamack, he's Stuart Dredge, and this is your easy guide to what's going on in the music biz this week. A government minister talks grassroots venues, bizarre reasons for gig cancellations, a little more AI, and who is top of the John Lewis Christmas ad charts. But to start, here's a big number from the man with all the stats. Stuart, astound us.
Here we go. $2.45 billion is my big number of the week.
Yeah.
This is not something people are very happy about in the music world. This is how much controversial AI music company Suno is worth. It raised some funding last week. It raised $250 million of funding. And when you have funding rounds of startup, it gives you a valuation, how much the investors think you're worth.
Yeah.
It's nearly $2.5 billion.
That's a huge amount. And this funding, I don't suppose we know where it's all coming from, but whoever is putting money into Suno, they must be pretty convinced that this is an ongoing business. But given that Suno is being sued by all the major labels at the moment, do they have any inside knowledge, I wonder, as to are there deals coming down the line? Because there must be a point where if you're putting money in, you must be thinking, well, this is an investment which will turn out well for us. We'll make something out of this, and not we're just going to put some money into a company that effectively is at war with the music industry.
Well, that's it, yeah. So obviously it's being sued by all the major labels still. But yeah, so Billboard had a story, actually, a follow-up story yesterday as we're talking. And they got the pitch deck, so the slideshow that it was showing to investors to convince them to chip in. And there's all kinds of stats in there. Like apparently Suno claims that by 2028, it will have $1 billion of revenue a year.
Wow.
It reckons it will be a 500 billion company in a few years' time. So there's, interestingly, there wasn't really anything in this report about licensing deals, funding, but in this leaked pitch deck that Billboard had, they kind of broke down what they're going to spend the funding on. So Suno said that it's going to spend about 30% of it on computing power, so literally servers and the stuff to make its thing work. 20% on buying companies, mergers and acquisitions. 20% on marketing itself. But then it had this line, 15% of this funding is earmarked for data. Right. And this is not something musicians will like, because to Suno, data is music. Like, it's all the music in the world that humans have made. Yeah. It's the music that it trains its models on. So 15% of $250 million is about $37.5 million. So that could be money it's earmarked for licensing deals. So there is a hint that it's kind of putting some money aside, ready for those rumored deals with labels and publishers. So yeah, we could see that.
We're going to come back to AI companies making deals with major record labels in a bit. But the first of our top stories of the week, Spotify. There's reports this week that it is preparing to raise its prices in America. We've talked a little bit about price rises elsewhere, changes in the different tiers, the platform tiers, and what they will end up delivering for you. But the interesting thing here is, because you've been crunching the numbers to figure out if there is a price rise, how might this benefit musicians and how much extra revenue may be actually going to artists?
Yeah, because it's something that people don't really talk about so much. We talk about, it's going up by $1 or $1. But what does that actually mean? So yeah, this was the Financial Times. So like quite a well-sourced report. I think they had 3 sources saying Spotify will raise its prices in the US in the first quarter of next year. And it's the world's biggest recorded music market. So it's going to be the biggest kind of deal there. And like music labels and publishers love this. They want streaming services to raise their prices more often. They look at like Netflix and Disney Plus in the video streaming world, who raise their prices a lot regularly and say, we should be more like that. You're getting the world's entire catalogue of music. But this report from the FT, it had this number it was JP Morgan, so like the big financial company, and they have their analysts who are following Spotify, and they apparently estimated that Spotify raising its price by $1 in the US will make it $500 million more revenue every year.
Right.
So that's the payoff for Spotify in terms of extra spending, $500 million. And then I remembered there's this industry body called DEMA. So it's like the industry body represents the streaming services. So like Apple Music is a member, Spotify, YouTube, Amazon Music. And so whenever in the US there's like political arguments, DEMA is the one that is taught in the same way that Live, does advocates for the live industry in the UK. And DEMA has this report, and in this report every year it has a graphic showing how $100 spent on streaming subscriptions is divided up. So it starts with every $100 spent by people on streaming. And the short answer is labels get about $58.60 of that. Publishers get $15.10. And then it works it down to how much do artists end up with and songwriters. So there's like this whole infographic. So I went back and said, okay, Spotify adds $1 to its price in the US. It gets $500 million more revenue a year. And based on this breakdown in this report by its industry body, that could mean around and it came out as like just over $46 million for artists and $41 million for songwriters.
Right.
And so that's the kind of number to play with. Okay, they add $1 in the US. It's more than $45 million for artists, which when you divide that up between all the artists, and bear in mind Taylor Swift gets a big chunk of it and so on. But yeah, it felt like a good way of understanding what these price rises are about, because I think maybe we tend to think of it as, oh God, I've got to spend this much more money a month more, which is a valid excuse, a valid thing to think because cost of living crisis. But it is a meaningful chunk more money going towards musicians via labels and publishers. So if and when it happens, that's why I think it'll be welcomed in the music industry.
Okay. Going back to AI, we mentioned Suno. Suno still being sued or facing various legal threats. Meanwhile, 3 other AI music companies, Udio, who we've mentioned previously, Udio, Stability AI, and Clay Vision, they've all been out having a much more positive conversation with major labels. Because, well, you said this the other week, didn't you, I think, after Udio did penned a deal with Universal, you said other deals would surely follow, and it turns out, yes, here they are.
I manifested it.
Yeah.
Or I just saw where the wind was blowing. It's like when everyone said the Sun used to back who was going to win the election. And it was like, no, they saw who was going to win and said,
yes, yeah. But it's true. No, but it was true. That's what you said, wasn't it? This sort of paves the way. If Udio can do a deal with Universal, the other record labels will be queuing up to do deals with other party, with Udio and whatever other parties are out there in these conversations.
Yeah, definitely. I think the music industry has been talking for such a long time now, hasn't it? About like, we want AI music companies to license properly and pay us and ask permission and tell us what they're doing. And yeah, it just feels like a button's been pressed that a bunch of these deals are happening and that's going to carry on. Rather than going to the weeds of like all 3 of them, I thought I'd just talk about the broad brush things of what it means. Like, what does this mean? What kind of AI music services are we going to see next year? And what does it mean for? So Udio, we talked about recently, it was being sued. It's settled with Universal. Now it's done the same with Warner Music. So it has 2 out of 3 majors. And it's going to launch a thing next year where you'll be able to go on and make AI music with its model. And also you'll be able to use it to make remixes, covers, and new songs using the voices of artists and compositions of songwriters, and this is to keep it, who choose to participate. So if you're an artist-songwriter signed to Warner Music Group, you'll get to say, I don't want to be part of this still. I know they're licensing, and you'll have that. That'll be your right. And they'll get paid if they do take part. Stability AI, they also recently did a deal with UMG, and now they have Warner Music too. So it was 2 Warner Music deals last year. And they described it as professional grade tools. So it's not really for everyone. It's more for professional artists and songwriters. They're making stuff they can use in their work. Stability AI, I've written about them a bit past. Like, they have a thing already where you kind of create sounds and samples and beats with it. Right. You don't create full songs. So it's very much like a tool for professional music. And then the third one is Clay Vision, which is kind of this mysterious startup. Hasn't really said exactly what it's doing, but it's got all 3 major labels it announced last week. So it's got Sony Music as well as Universal and Warner. It's the first time, I think, an AI company has got all 3 majors. And it says it wants to get independence as well, which is the other important part of this. And there's this quote. It said, "We're not a prompt-based meme-generating engine designed to supplant human artists. Instead, it's an entirely new subscription product that will uplift great artists and celebrate their craft."
What does that mean in English? We don't know.
Well, yeah, there was like a leak beforehand on Bloomberg, and they said it will have, and there's a quote, "the features of a streaming service like Spotify, amplified by AI technology that will let users remake songs in different styles." Right. So, you can remake All I Want for Christmas Is You as a metalcore K-pop track. But I think the broad zooming out, I suppose, like there's three things here. Like one, there's going to be services where you can make new music, new AI music yourself. Go in and say, I want a song about dogs
Yep.
in 4/3 time, blah blah. Um, the other ones that are going to be tools for professional artists and songwriters, so kind of another thing to use in the studio.
Yep.
And then there's this coming thing about remixing and mashing up existing songs by human artists and making songs with the voice of an artist. But the key is this is every one of these deals stress that it's licensed and the human musicians will get a chance to decide whether they want to be part of it or not. And
Right.
that seems to be the model. So if you're an artist signed to these late majors, you won't just have your stuff suddenly given to every AI startup that signs a deal. You'll get a choice.
Right.
So good news.
Good. All right. Any other business? I know because you had an audience with a government minister last week, didn't you? Which was well, kind of around Labour's ticketing reforms that we discussed last week, I think. But he also talks a bit about grassroots venues.
Yeah. And it was because they set this interview up, and it's Ian Murray MP. So he's now the Minister for Creative Industries, Media and Arts. So pretty much everything we talk about, I think, will be under he'll be involved in, won't he, from the government's point of view. And yeah, they sort of said ahead, we'll do, but he wants to talk about grassroots venues. So I was like, okay, fair enough, let's do that. And he had some stats, which I've only got him saying this. I haven't actually checked it out yet with the live industry, but he said, so in the UK, well, you obviously know this, but listeners, look, we've got this idea of a voluntary levy. So on stadium and arena tickets, I think it's £1, isn't it? Or is it
Yeah, it's £1. Yeah, voluntary contribution we call it for gigs above 5,000 capacity. We're hoping that everyone will join us in getting behind this idea of you can put £1 from each ticket into a fund, which is the Live Trust, and the Live Trust will then distribute the money to various players at grassroots level, be it venues or artists or promoters, even festivals. So that's the theory.
Yeah, and I think a year ago it was announced, and there was the press release from the government was like, right, we want this to be voluntary, sort it out yourselves.
Yeah.
And then if you're not doing a good enough job with that, we'll do laws to do it.
Yeah.
So that was the kind of thing. And so I asked him, how's it going? Like, where are we at? And he said, they're touching apparently 40% of tickets this year have had this voluntary levy, and 32% of next year's tickets already. They're aiming for 50% next year, and he reckons we'll definitely get to that. But he was interesting because he was like, he wants to get it to 100%. He wants to get it as close as possible to every single ticket for a big gig.
Yeah, I mean that would be terrific. I mean, I think that's everyone. Well, that's our hope at Live, that it will become the norm. That this is just what you do. There's £1 from this will go into this fund, and I think it'll be easier convincing people that this is a good thing once we see where the money's going and what it's actually doing, what it's achieving. Because if you take some of the some of the pounds and you give them to people who can make a difference at grassroots level, they can come back and say, well, we helped this venue stay open, or we helped this venue get a new PA, or the artist will be able to say, well, I wouldn't have been able to go on a long tour of 30 dates if had it not been for this money. So once there is actual evidence of what this can do, that's where I think everyone's hoping, well, this will be even more convincing arguments. And then the percentage of tours going on sale. I mean, we have to, you can break it down by promoter. I'm not sure if Ian mentioned that. And, some promoters are far more active in this than others, I would say.
He said, I did ask what the barriers to getting to that 100%, and he said that. So he used the word producers, which I think he means promoters.
Yeah,
he said some big producers, they're sort of, and he said one of the arguments they're saying is that their artists already do donations and philanthropy stuff on the tickets, and this is on top of that, and they're not too sure. And he kind of basically said, I don't really buy that argument. So it was, it was good because I don't interview that many politicians really in my job. Like it's more tech people and music people, but he came across well. He was plain speaking. At one point, he goes, "I'm not going to bamboozle you with government speak," and then sort of didn't, which was nice. But he was quite like on that. He was like, "I don't buy that argument." And even in ticketing, he was talking about the arguments of StubHub and Viagogo, and he said, "I don't think that's true because." So he was quite. He seemed to be quite on top of the brief.
Yeah, he's been very well briefed. Yeah.
Yeah.
That's
So good news.
Promising. While
Yeah.
we're talking about live music and the grassroots, um, I know. Well, here's a question for everyone: what's the most bizarre reason that a gig that you've been going to has been cancelled at the last moment? Because here's one I've certainly not come across before, and I know this might sound like an early silly season story, but I guess, there are financial ramifications for this, as we learn that the band Fickle Friends were forced to cancel their gig at Glasgow King Tut's last week due to an exploding toilet.
I'm fairly sure Exploding Toilet played King Tut's Swallow Hut a few years ago, etc., etc. Yeah. So this is we have the band say so about this. They posted about it on social media saying 30 minutes before the gig, it's been cancelled. Exploding Toilet. There's a brilliant social post from the support act, who's Alexia, who said, flew 25 hours from Australia to Glasgow to play a sold out show, but the toilet blew up and there was shit flooding the venue, so it got cancelled. And now I'm trying a deep fried Mars bar, which, of all the things you want to eat after seeing a venue covered in effluent, a deep fried Mars bar would not be my choice.
I mean, you see, here's the thing. I mean, obviously, there's the inconvenience. I mean, she's got to be playing more than one gig, right? I mean,
You'd hope so.
there's no way. I've just flown in from Australia to do one date at Glasgow, so hopefully there were other dates which went
Yeah.
ahead. I don't know. I didn't check, but fingers crossed. But here's so apart from it's inconvenience for everyone, isn't it? But in terms of the money, well, you would imagine that Tuts or whoever was promoting the gig would have some sort of insurance, would they? I mean, not specifically. There's not a line in the insurance for exploding toilets. Can I take
Or
out?
is there?
This will cost you an extra of £2 a month premium for the specific exploding toilets insurance. But for insurance for a gig being cancelled. Otherwise, well, it's not just the convenience. Of course, everyone's out of pocket because you'd have to refund the ticket price to fans unless the gig's being rearranged. If it's being rearranged, you know, maybe not coming back from Australia to do the gig next month. Fickle Friends, though, which I don't know where they come from, but you think they're from the South Coast somewhere.
I think South
That's
Coast.
a
That's a
long
long
old
way, isn't
van
it?
drive, isn't it? They might be on tour, of course, but there's everyone's out of pocket here. So refund the ticket price. I don't know about the bands. The band probably don't really get any money back, I guess.
I don't know. Yeah. And it's weird because it's intrinsically funny in Exploding Toilet, but this is quite, I feel guilty a bit because this is for everyone. It's a worry, isn't it? You know, if you lose a night's
Pay,
revenue as a
yeah,
venue, and likely for
yeah.
the band.
Yeah, I
Um,
mean, yeah, and even the venue, of course, because
mm.
they've booked the staff. They've opened up, they've turned the lights and the heating on, so they're
Buster Chains. That's where it went
yeah.
wrong.
Anyway, anyone at the legendary King Tut's listening, if you are, do get in touch. We're not taking the mickey out of you because it is one of those things that, as you say, sounds like a gag until you suddenly realise, crikey, that this is how fragile that a
Mm.
venue's livelihood is. It all comes down to hoping that everything works, and this is
Yeah.
why. Again, coming back to the live trust, if you can put more money back into the grassroots, then you can spend more money on the facilities at the venue to avoid things, hopefully, like exploding toilets.
Mm.
There you
Definitely.
go. Oh yeah, this was something which you mentioned earlier on in the week. Do you want to talk us through this? There's I'd not come across this before, but there's a website and app which is called Who Sampled, and it allows you to basically trace where the samples have come from in your favourite tracks. So you've got the song going, I wonder what that sample's from. That's where you go to Who Sampled. But Who Sampled's been bought out by one of the biggest companies in music.
Yeah. And so, like a circular thing, we go back to Spotify because it's
Yeah,
Spotify who's bought it.
yeah.
Yeah, Who Samples one of those. It's one of those if you know websites, and obviously it's most relevant to people who listen to music that's got a lot of samples in. So it's big with hip hop fans, it's big with dance fans. I think it's got like more than 1.2 million songs, and you can look them up and find out where their samples came from. And it's a bit like Wikipedia, and it's got this. I think it's about 40,000 people have contributed to this database of samples. So it's not just a bunch of experts in a room; it's like everyone who's part of the community.
Mm.
So it's brilliant. It's been going for a long time, and it's one of those things that people love. but most people don't know about, but
Yeah.
people love it. And yeah, last week, Spotify was announcing some new features on its service and just casually slipped in, by the way, we bought Who Sampled,
Right.
which was quite a surprise to people.
And
But
what was what did they say how much they paid for it?
no,
No.
I mean, it was in terms of people, it was a small operation. I was looking for its accounts, and I think it's about maybe 2 people. So it's like a
Oh,
proper
right.
sort of, um, what do you call it? Cottage industry.
Yeah.
But a really good, like, in fact, I met the founder, a guy called Nadev, a long time ago, who was a really nice man. Like one of those people you meet him and just you end up talking about music straight away. He didn't sort of pitch you a startup. You end up talking about something you love. So a
Yeah.
good egg. But yeah, so we know what Spotify is doing with it a bit because it's got this new feature, which is what was being announced, called Song DNA, which is a bit like Rock Family Trees, but for songs rather than people. If you've ever seen that. So if you're a subscriber, you'll be like browse this big map of connections between like songs and collaborators and samples and covers, and just kind of go down these rabbit holes of how a song has been sort of, covered and sampled and so on.
Yeah.
And it's being used, Who Sampled is being used for that, although it's carrying on as its own app and website too.
Okay.
So yeah.
That's
So
good.
yeah.
Tyler, the creator, who's had quite a big year, has now got a big award. I mean, a physically big award from, I
Enormous.
think it was Apple Music, was it?
It was, yeah. So every year Apple Music choose their artist of the year. And it's a very Apple thing. Like it's not about who's got the most streams. It's not like a chart topping thing. It's like who is the person they want to celebrate, who's affected the culture.
Mm.
So it's normally like this is the most significant artist of the year. And yeah, it's Tyler the Creator, who because he's kind of gone under my radar this year. I knew he had stuff out, but apparently to Apple Music, he had 4.5 billion minutes of listening time on Apple Music alone this year. And he had a couple of albums out, and he's also starring in a film soon.
Mm.
So he's had a really big year, but there's just, I mean, I don't know. I don't know if I sent you a link, but there's a photo of him with this award, and it's not like a little trophy you hold aloft like a Mercury Prize or a Brit.
Yeah.
It's like a sort of speaker, a big speaker-sized award. And in the press release, it describes it apparently as Apple's custom silicon wafer suspended between a polished sheet of glass and a machined and anodized aluminium body.
Oh.
But my thought was like, Christ, that's not going to go on the mantelpiece. It's going to be a big mantelpiece if it's going to go on the mantelpiece. I mean, if people could Google it, they can look for Tyler the Creator Apple Music Award.
Yeah.
He looks kind of he looks like he's thinking, where the hell is this going in the living room?
What am I going to do with this? Mixed with, I mean, that's just showing off Apple. If you're going to give, which, I mean, that's PR. That's what that is. That's a PR stunt. That's what
he's in
it
good
is.
Company though. Billie Eilish has won it twice. The Weeknd, Bad Bunny, Taylor Swift. So he's in good company.
Billie Eilish has probably had to move house then. Find a bigger house for the. Oh no, you've won the Apple Award. Oh no, again. What am I going to do? Well, the other one's out in the garage. We touched on Christmas songs last week. Time for our weekly Christmas song update. We mentioned Mariah Carey in the middle of November was already in the Spotify top 40. Is she in the top 10 yet? I mean, probably. Is she?
Well and truly.
Well,
I've just been checking. So
yeah.
The official. I'll start with the official charts company in the UK because they have this first look chart that comes out on a Monday. So Friday is when the actual chart is released, isn't it?
Yeah.
Wham's Last Christmas is number 10,
right.
And All I Want for Christmas is You is number 15. And the top 40 includes Brenda Lee, The Pogues and Kirsty MacColl. Shakin' Stevens is back in the top 50, top 40. And also, here's the thing, Kylie Minogue has got a Christmas song in the top 40 of the First Looks chart, and it's only on Amazon Music. It's one of those exclusive things.
We mentioned that the other week, didn't we? Yeah.
So it's in the top 40 on Amazon streams alone. Which suggests that if you're going onto your smart speaker and asking for Christmas music, it's right at the top.
Yeah. Of course.
But then today I looked at Spotify's top 50 globally. So the global Spotify daily chart. Mariah's number 4. She's been played 4.2 million times a day. And we're a week off December. And people are playing. And Wham's number 6, Brenda Lee's number 9. So yeah, it started. It's well and truly off and running.
I'll add this as well because I've sent a press release about this. And this is another major annual festive talking point. Yes, the John Lewis TV ad. Although apparently, according to this new piece of research, its impact is on the wane slightly. But the interesting thing here for us is what was the most popular John Lewis ad ever, and what was the music for it. By the way, they compile this top 10 by measuring the seasonal increase in searches on Google for John Lewis. So when the ad comes out, usually there's a massive spike in searches for John Lewis, which I don't know whether that stands up as a mechanic, but they've gone to all this trouble. So in third place, 2014's Monty the Penguin advert, musical accompaniment, Tom Odell covering John Lennon's Real Love. In second place, 2012, Gabrielle Aplin's take on Frankie's The Power of Love. And the most popular John Lewis ad, any guesses?
It's not Lily Allen? No. Was it Lily Allen?
You're right. 2013, yeah, the Bear and the Hare ad, which featured a cover. It was a cover of Keane's "Somewhere Only We Know," sung by Lily Allen, which currently has 387 million Spotify streams. And according to Spotify streaming calculation analysis, this means Lily Allen has earned from this track an estimated £1 million in streaming royalties. Happy Christmas, everyone.
Better than do you know, it's weird, isn't it? I feel like there should be a separate chart that measures it by how many things John Lewis sold that year. Like what actually sold kettles and sofas and whatever else. Because do you know what I mean? Like this is the actual impact of it. That they must have that figure somewhere where they're going, yeah, we won't book so and so again because we got left with loads of mugs this year.
Well, there you go. There's your top three. And finally, for this week, in our ongoing attempt to keep you fully updated with the license to print money kids song Baby Shark, the company behind Baby Shark has floated on the South Korean Stock Exchange and is now worth how much?
$372 million.
There you go.
Not a bad business. This is the Pink Fong company. Which is one of those companies that started doing something like did educational books or something. And then in 2015, we're like, I know, we've got this cartoon of a shark singing. Why don't we put that on YouTube?
Yeah.
And a brand was born. Yeah.
And the rest is history.
Apparently, it made $67 million of revenue last year, which is, and it has other things. It's one of those, you see the press releases like, yeah, we've launched this other character and this other thing and this other thing. But really, it's still the Baby Shark company.
Yeah. And probably forever will be. I
think so. But don't forget, it's Boxing Day this year. The Baby Shark meets Peppa Pig. That's going to be the big post-Christmas hit this year. It comes out on Boxing Day.
We are out of time for this week. Thank you very much for listening. If you are enjoying what we're trying to do here, or you need weekly Baby Shark updates, do spread the word. Tell your friends. Leave us a review online. All that kind of caper all helps. And obviously, alternatively, if you happen to have some loose change, you can also support us via Patreon. And if you sign up to be a super fan, you get an extra 15-20 minutes of us two chatting about music. This week in our lock-in, we'll be doing bands of the year and more gig cancellation stories, amongst other things. Plus, you get other occasional benefits. For instance, superfans will be playing a very important role in our up-and-coming Price of Music Superfans Christmas Pop Quiz, which we are both very nervous about. But if you'd like to know more, you can become a super fan of the show at patreon.com/thepriceofmusic. Alternatively, if you'd just like to drop us a line, or you have a question that you think we might be able to answer for you. By the way, Stuart Ferguson will be dealing with your email. That's amongst some of the stuff we'll be doing on next week's program. So Stuart, thank you very much for getting in touch. We've got one or two questions which we must try and get through before Christmas. But anything that you don't understand about how the industry works, or something you think we might be able to make sense of for you, it's the Price of Music podcast at gmail.com. The Price of Music podcast at gmail.com. We'll be back next Wednesday. Till then, bye-bye.